I know there's lots of amazing things going on tonight with Detroit Month of Design. So some of you might be coming in and out, but that gives you a good run of show for what to expect this evening from us. And thank you again for being here. So I think we're getting pretty close to time. What I'm going to do, it seems like we have a amazing critical mass here. So I'm going to go ahead and share some images with you here. And feel free to talk over. I've sort of designed this slideshow for you. Again, those who didn't hear the first couple times around, I just wanted to share some images of the behind the scenes. We never get the opportunity to do this in an in-person opening. And this is such a special show because we were able to bring together so many designers. I think this is the biggest number of artists we've had in an exhibition to date. There's what we're seeing right now that is really exciting is that when we started this exhibition, it was really important to us to be able to get to know and have a conversation with every single participating artist and designer in the show. And given the current times, we had to make some of these studio visits virtual, just like we're doing right now. And so this goes to take you through a few of these behind the scenes studio visits that right here with Kyle Joseph. Here, Nur Saltic and I are with Dee Clements, who's based in Chicago.
Is that a basket mold behind D, or was behind D? It was like this, like.
Yeah, it's a mold
thing. Yeah.
And then not all of them were Zoom studio visits. So a few select people, we were able to coordinate an in-person visit here in Pontiac with Aratani Faye, with Evan Faye and Ayako Aratani. And this is quite early on, Evan. I think I hadn't really been around maybe more than 4 or 5 other people at this point when we had our first studio visit.
Yeah, this was really early on.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got a chance to meet in person.
Absolutely.
Are there a lot of people that are in this studio building?
Yeah, it's a pretty popular building in Pontiac. There's quite a few Cranbrook alum in the building as well.
Is it kind of for any medium or like?
Yeah, there's all different types of makers in the space. There's architects and painters and craftspeople and people like us, but yeah, it's a nice place to be.
Fabricators too, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's really rewarding getting to know what goes behind the practice, and here you can see working late at night, which is, you know, cut from the same cloth there. And this was from our visit, talking about, you know, being able to meet with the designers and the artists early on in the planning stages of an exhibition. We get to talk through and flesh out different ideas. As you can see here, we have a number of different prototypes and designs that Anton Faye was working on. And through our conversations, we're able to develop and redevelop that initial concept.
Yeah, and I remember we went through a couple different iterations talking to you, and I'm really glad that we talked to you because we could get a sense of the space. And you see this image right here is kind of what's closest related to the one that you see in the gallery. And so you notice how it kind of evolved over time.
This is a very cool thing. Abby Farrelly was able to show us and share with us a new bit of technology at the College for Creative Studies, where he's the head of the ceramics department. And he used this new technology, a 3D ceramic printer, to create the works in our brand new, launched today, Wasserman Works, an online and in-person sales gallery. And here you will see, I think, the third or fourth ever prototype coming out of this machine.
It is 16 inches.
So weird.
It's quite satisfying to watch. And as you can see, some of the attempts didn't quite make it, and that's all part of the process. Ebby, Nur and I also had this great opportunity to meet with Ebby in his home and get a look at some of the finished works, and just had hours and hours of incredible conversation and really getting to know each other and what goes into each of these particular projects that Ebby has worked on. And here we have the founder of Form&Seek, Bilge Nur-Soltik, who is showing us through this process of designing and fabricating these beautiful espresso cups, which we have available at Wasserman Works at the moment.
Yeah.
And Nur, who is this? I know that later in this video we see a cat.
Yes, we actually manufacture these cups in Istanbul. I'm originally Turkish. You're gonna hear about me a little bit in a little bit. And the cat is a famous Istanbul cat. Well, Istanbul is famous by its cats. I don't know if you watched the movie Cats, but it's a documentary about Istanbul cat. Anyway, so you'll see cats a lot in the working spaces.
So it's just a random cat that...
It's the ceramic workshop's cat, basically.
So Turkey has a very rich history of ceramics.
Yeah.
Is that why you are making the objects there? Because the craftsmanship is something special?
Yes, and I'm actually originally from Istanbul. And when I started that project, I was in Istanbul and I was able to work with the craftsmen in person. So now we have a special relationship that it's hard to walk away. So, and there's a history of, I also do glass work as well. There's a big history of glass and ceramics in Turkey. So it's actually interesting to work with them still. And we have a language that we develop right now. So it's hard to walk away.
No, you shouldn't walk away, but I guess my question is, could they be made locally? Or is the expertise or technology to make them in Turkey?
No, they can be made. They can be made locally. They're actually, I'm using a new technique. So they're 3D printed. So we get exactly the same shapes that I design on CAD, which are designers' craftsmanships, right? So our craftsmanship is using the 3D programs. So they are actually, the mold is made out of the 3D printed piece. So they can actually produce here.
You can see here we're starting to receive hundreds of pieces that we have in the gallery space here right now at Wasserman Projects and Wasserman Works. And the team did a phenomenal job assisting in bringing everything in, archiving everything, and we had so many photo shoots. And that was such a great chance to see the works, how they engage in a physical space, how they engage with other pieces as well. And just an opportunity for us to get together and really think through the final installation of the exhibition. Erin was working especially hard that day. I mean, everyone was working very hard that day. I think you were doing a lot of heavy lifting, or at least there's a lot of photographs of that.
It seems like I was only looking at the camera.
Yeah, that was a fun day. That was a lot of work, a lot of moving work back and forth.
And I have to say, this is a fun thing for me and for us at Wasserman Projects as well. We're always fabricating things down to the last second. That we very rarely, I have to admit, this is the part of the behind the scenes in mission, is that we very rarely have a chance to live with the works prior to opening our doors to the public. And this was such a nice opportunity to see how the different pieces could speak to one another, and having such great documentation, thanks to Claire Gatto and PD Rurik for shooting all of the images well in advance. As you can imagine, with a virtual opening, it doesn't matter if I have it hung on the wall. I need a picture of it to share.
Also, this was a really interesting moment, specifically like during this photo shoot, because I think that in a lot of the exhibitions, the work is coexisting together, but here they're actually like working together in a way that like isn't how the actual exhibition is going to be set up. So that was a really interesting thing to
Absolutely
watch happen.
Yeah.
And
It's funny how you get to this point and then realize how much work actually went into doing all of it, because this is a celebration to see everything done, but it's almost like you forget that all these images happened.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
every photo shoot, every shuffle of a piece, every like email correspondence, you know, it's good to see.
Absolutely.
It's actually, virtual opening gives us the opportunity to celebrate this, and this is like we all been showing for a long time, but this is quite an interesting experience, and I'm actually enjoying to celebrate this, even though we can only virtually cheers right now, but it's quite interesting.
To give a shout out, Maya is a current student at the College for Creative Studies. She has been brave enough to take on an internship during a worldwide pandemic.
And brave enough during an install, which is also a whole thing.
A lot of heavy lifting.
Fire right into an install, and she's been fantastic and brought us squashes.
I think this is such a wonderful opportunity, though, to get a more holistic look at the artist, the process, the realization of it. It's a very rich experience.
I love being able to share this. You know, this is, for me as a curator, as a gallery director, as an artist, this is really one of the things I live for, and is trying.
It's giving birth to an art show. I mean, it's fabulous. It's just fabulous.
And I creative process.
It's just fascinating to me. I'm enjoying it.
It also shows how many minutes Allison made us keep the frame up and made us work our muscles with Julia and Maya.
I'm telling you, the Wasserman workout plan is the best.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise a lot of this documentation would all live on our iPhones and with our other 10,000 images, and we would never, you know, we would never see this stuff otherwise.
You can see how many times you try
Aaron, the normal viewer never gets to see these things. This is a rich experience.
Yeah. Agreed.
Maybe it's a good time to also talk about social media. We've been sharing some hints on I know Wasserman team was sharing on Wasserman Projects, at Wasserman Projects on Instagram. Form&Seek has been sharing on at Form&Seek, and all of our designers actually sharing on their own. And it's a great, well, the spiritual world actually requires us to follow social media much more now, and you can see all these documentation in the longer versions over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Nur, you, Form&Seek, the entire design team, you guys have taught me a lot about social media and documentation, and it's so wonderful to have this wealth of content to share with all of you. Here we have Simon Anton, who's working here, not working currently, it's all done, on a really ambitious and really thought-provoking installation piece. And you'll have a chance to hear from him a little bit about his process and the ideas that drive his work. But this is what he's pouring into this acrylic box here is all recycled plastics.
Simon, what is that object in the middle?
So that's actually an industrial plastics storage bin. It coincidentally looks like a castle. It's just designed to basically reduce the overall volume of the amount of plastic required to pour into this this box. This piece is a recreation of what's called in the plastics industry a gaillard, which is a unit of measurement. It's basically a large box of plastic. So when people sell recycled plastics, it's usually in 1,300 pounds, 1,500 pounds. So the weird box is basically just to reduce the overall weight for ease of movement in the gallery.
Which was still very heavy.
It is still heavy. There's still a lot of plastic in there. There's enough.
And what's that pallet on the bottom made out of, Simon?
So the pallet
regular
is
pallet?
Thanks for asking, Nick. Not a regular pallet. The pallet's actually made out of the material that you see being poured. So the pallet is all recycled plastic, which is this is actually mostly blends of toys, waste from a toy manufacturing facility. So yeah, the entire installation dealt with questions of the plastic industry and then some domestic objects.
So thank you all. It was so nice to be able to share these images and some of the process that goes behind putting an exhibition together. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here and just give an official and formal welcome to everybody for joining us. Thank you so much for being here. It is we're in crazy times. And I think that this is the absolute best and most satisfying thing that we can do while remaining safe, while continuing to enjoy and experience artworks. So first and foremost, I have quite a few thank yous to go through, but I'll make them brief. I have to give my indebted thanks to our founders, Gary Wasserman and Charlie Kashner. None of this would be possible without you. This is the absolutely dream job. I get to enjoy every single part of my life, every single day, so thank you. I also have to thank my incredible team. Julia Callis, I'm like tearing up. Julia Callis, Sarah Sternberg, our lovely intern, Maya Davis, and none of this would be possible without the support from my partner, John Chornota, who not only cooks me dinners, brings me food at 3 in the morning at the gallery, but also helps come up with really innovative and creative ways to problem solve the installation projects that we have here at the gallery. So none of this would be possible without you. Thank you. I also want to thank Form&Seek, Bilga Nursaltik, and the entire team of co-organizers and every single one of the designers, every single one of the artists. Thank you so much. This is what I live for. You are all the reason we do this, and there's no better job in the world than to support the ideas that you're presenting to the world around us. Last but not least, I want to thank Design Corps, Detroit Month of Design, to be able to present this exhibition at this moment. There's so many artists and designers who are based here or have a deep connection to Detroit. This is a time where we start to look around in our communities and to support and promote one another. So it makes perfect sense that we're showing 30 artists at one time, which is a total record for Wasserman Projects, and to be able to have these experiences with you and continue promoting this kind of work at this incredible level. So thank you so much. With that, I'll stop being sappy, and I'm going to hand it over to Bilga Nursaltik, founder of Form&Seek. Thank you.
So, okay, I have to unmute myself. Hi everyone, I'm Bilga Nursaltik, Nur for short. I'm the founder and director of Form&Seek, and I'm also an educator, a professor at LTU. I'm super excited to have this opportunity to co-create and collaborate with Wasserman Projects. Thank you, Allison, Gary, and Charlie for supporting us. We're very excited to be part of Detroit Month of Design. This is our second year showing part of the Design Month, and it's quite a nice journey. We love their support, and we love being part of this network. Form&Seek Studio, Form&Seek is a design studio that works with uniquely crafted products, but we also collaborate with designers to create design exhibitions. And this is one of the fruit of our collective exhibitions, the Never Normal show. Form&Seek story has started 7 years ago in London. With super talented friends and colleagues, we collaborated on design shows and international design fairs and platforms. And after that, after our first show in Istanbul, we liked it. Like Allison said, this process actually drives me, and I love working with people. So with the team, we decided to continue grow this network. So since we launched in 2013 as collective that curates design shows, Form&Seek has been collaborated plus 100 designers from 25 different countries, and we curated 17 different shows. This is our 17th, so I'm quite proud of that. Including cities like Milan, London, New York, and so on. We collaborate with brands like Frame, Box Park. So additional to collective, 3 years ago, we launched the design studio. However, we never stopped curating. So you see our shows every year. And because I personally believe the big value in these curated shows. I see Form&Seek Collective as a platform that creates open up space for designers. I think as creatives, we need to protect each other, elevate each other's work, and support each other. So these exhibitions were my outlet, my team's outlet to grow these networks. About 2 years ago, so I'm sure you're gonna ask, how am I in Detroit? About 2 years ago, I personally moved to Detroit area, and part of Form&Seek actually came with me. And then, well, it was the first step to become a Detroiter. Our team still works in different locations. We still have active team in Istanbul and London, and we work daily. But since I moved here, I met with amazing creatives and designers, and they welcomed me. I want to thank all of them. It's quite great to be involved in the design scene in here. And last February, actually, before the pandemic hit us on the face, we were talking with friends about organizing a show, because everyone in here is excited to show work. Like there's a lot of creative energy locally. We wanted to organize a show highlights creatives in Detroit. Myself, Sophie Young from E&D Studio, Karen Lee, Evan Fay, and Aaron Blandowski, we sat down and we started thinking about how we can create something, how we can organize a show. And you're actually in the launch of that show, Never Normal. I want to thank them as organizational team for all of their help, and do a virtual cheers. And then I want to thank the Wasserman Projects team for all of their hard work. They didn't sleep, eat, and they helped us a lot. And they always kept their smiles on, which was amazing. It's amazing to see. I want to thank all the designers who believed in us and believed in the Never Normal show. It was a great journey. Started from February. I don't know even how many months since we've been locked down and shelter in place. I'm actually quite proud of the show, and I'm proud of to show my personal work in between these 23 designers and studios. And before I want to pass the baton to Aaron, I want to say I hope you will like it as much as we do. I think it's a great show.
Hear me? So I'll just talk briefly about choosing the designers and choosing the name Never Normal. I think it was actually extremely easy and serendipitous to put this group of people together and to select this name. I'd say it selected itself. I think for most artists, we're already aware that the world that we lived in previous to this was not normal. And I think that we always would point that out with our work. I think that's the artist's role, is to point out, you know, how we live, how we're not living, how we can be living better. So it just all came together in a very natural and holistic way. And I think for me and for all of us that were involved, we really equate this to these strange times and being able to grow the design scene in the city of Detroit. And I think that perhaps might be the biggest benefactor of this show, is that we could have skipped a year really easy and not done anything, and not remained scrappy and not remained hard at work in our studios or working through all of the ideas that we have in our head regardless. So the Never Normal show just, it seemed very easy to pull off, but it was a lot of hard work, and it wasn't the normal type of work. It was not normal in any regard. So it was very fitting, and it was a pleasure to work with everybody, and for all the stress that came from it, it was very, very easy and fitting. That's it for me. Allison, I think, has some more remarks to kind of segue into the next section of the opening.
The opening. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks to everyone. I know this is a lot of thank yous, but it is really important. It's so meaningful to us. What I want to do next, I'm going to take over the share screen option here once again. I think it's really important, and this is, again, an opportunity we don't always get to have during an in-person opening, but you get to have one-on-one time with each of the featured artists and designers. So I am going to do just a very quick introduction. You'll be able to see here our core organizational team here from left to right. Sophie, Evan, Karen, Nur, and Aaron. And then we are going to just do a quick breeze through so you're familiarized with all of the names and faces of the participating artists and designers in this current Never Normal exhibition. And while we move through this very rapid slideshow, I wanted to also mention one of the things in our original conversation with Wasserman Projects and Form&Seek is to create a connection with Wasserman Projects' existing program. So we have paired with the 23 designers in Never Normal about a dozen artists that have exhibited or had a relationship with us here at Wasserman Projects in the past, in a time that we cannot easily see one another and spend time together. I wanted to be surrounded by my family, and my family is here at Wasserman Projects and every single artist that we've worked with. So strategically, we wanted to talk through the different concepts and aesthetic and formal and conceptual decisions that were made in the selection of works for Never Normal alongside some of Wasserman Projects artists. And then, as I mentioned, just please enjoy. This is the first time that anyone has seen the exhibition fully installed, and I can guarantee that because I was here just minutes ago finalizing, and maybe Charlie was here, but we're excited to pull back the curtain for you tonight. I mentioned early on during the start of this Zoom call that even some of the very designers who are participating in this exhibition have not seen their work installed yet. So there'll be, I'm sure, lots of commentary, hopefully excited and elated responses to what we've done. So without further ado, pressing play. In addition to our virtual opening, obviously we want to be safe and not have large gatherings at this time, but Wasserman Projects is open by appointment to small groups of no more than 4 single-family homes, Wednesday through Saturday. Quite a few of the slots have already been booked, but please feel free to contact us at info@Wasserman Projects if you'd like to schedule a time that's not currently available. And we'll do our best to accommodate, but we really want to encourage you to see this work in person. There's nothing like it. All right, here we go. Donut Shop had an incredible piece that we've been using for sort of the signature image of this show, and I'm going to let you sort of talk about that. I'm going to loop this back through the beginning, but here's a great image of it as well.
Yeah, I don't know, this piece for us was kind of a departure from our normal work, and we actually created this piece specifically for the show. So before the show was even on our horizon, we hadn't thought about this. And with that, it was kind of interesting because every process for the piece itself was kind of new for us as well. So the actual, process of creating it, as well as the kind of show's whole concept, was new. Yeah, so the piece was it's a direct response to kind of what's going on in the world and the dividers that you see kind of put into places to protect people and cause a sense of safety. And I don't know, with us kind of doing research into this, we dove into kind of past pandemics and how those, how societies were changed and addressed issues that were going on during those times. So we kind of looked at a lot of historical context and tried to bring that into this piece.
Yeah, I mean, going off of what Jake said, we're looking at the history of how people have addressed pandemics in the past, which have been everywhere from quarantining to actually like using flowers to try and protect like your sense of smell, because the pervasive theory and where the piece got its title, miasma, was that if you couldn't smell disease, you couldn't contract it. Then we fast forward to where we are today, and these sort of DIY dividers that are made out of 2x4s and staples and fishing wire. And we have to ask ourselves if that's really doing much for us. And if it is it doing enough? So for our piece, we thought we'd go kind of the opposite direction and make something that's totally over the top in its construction and the resources that go into making it. And then also the flowers are there to reference that sort of previous theory. So that's where the piece came from. And I'll also say that it was really an honor to be showing with all these other designers, and we're stoked on how the show turned out and super excited to go see it in person. And I would encourage everyone to go do the same. So thanks again, Allison and Julia and Nor. Yeah, it looks great.
Some of these installations really came out of our Zoom calls and studio visits to reimagine the pieces and think about them in installation views and how it interacts with the architecture of our space and the relationships between the pieces. I think, Chris, you are here on the call. This is one of his works, an incredible painting. I've been following Chris's work for quite some time. And Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask you to talk a little bit of your process, because this is something I think is very important when we're seeing this digitally that doesn't quite capture how magnificent these pieces are in person.
Thanks, Allison. That's very flattering. They begin really in digital space, though. They're done by animating tubular forms as fabric simulations, as well as doing likewise with these confetti streamers and pennant strings that are now part of the vocabulary of the work. And it's a composing by watching. I don't really know what I'm looking for in terms of composition when I start these paintings. And so I set up scenarios with a type of visual vocabulary and then watch to see what occurs. The word happenstance has been an important one for me lately. I don't know what I want, but I know it when I see it. Making them involves really a complex translation of the information out of the digital space into procedures that I can put to use to make the paintings. They're constructed very much like images are constructed in digital space, but it's done in a material way with certainly the aid of a lot of technology, but there's also a lot of hand activity too. They're very textured surfaces. They're very built, they're very constructed. A friend of mine talks about my work not in terms of painting, but in terms of engineered surfaces, which is an idea that I like quite a lot.
Perfect for a design-themed exhibition. And I have to say, I know we had a little detail of this, but I just wanted to give another shout out to Studio Heron and D. Clements. Through our conversations, I think we couldn't have come up with this installation, and I was so inspired by her energy, by the state of her studio that you saw in the beginning half of this, and thinking about these incredibly bright and joyful colors, these unconventional combinations is really something that's giving me a lot of positivity, given everything else going on in the world right now. So I absolutely love seeing the intense craftsmanship of her basketry work, but this installation I think just sings so beautifully together with all of the other artists and designers in the space. And Karen and Brett here with your wormy worm shelf. This is an artist we exhibited a number of years ago, Mariella Zacharias. I'm not sure, there's so many people here I can't sift through to see if she's on the call. Mariella is currently on residency and preparing for a major exhibition in Seattle after she recently completed a massive installation at the Seattle International Airport. Mariella was phenomenal to work with and really responded to her roots and connections in her own practice and how it connected to Detroit. Oh, hi, Mariella. I don't want to speak for you. I know you're here, but this is just it's always been such a treasured piece for us here at Wasserman Projects, and I'm just excited to be able to show it again in person. And the relationship here with Substudio, who is composed of Hannah Dorst and Ingrid Schmidt, with their incredible wallpaper and patterning. It's stunning. And here we have Annie Mayer. I think all of you guys are on this call. Don't make me do all the work.
This piece has amazing craftsmanship.
Yeah, it just made me think about how when we were doing the photo shoot, the carrots became one of the favorite pieces in the entire show because of when we finally put the leaves in them. At first, I did not know that they were carrots until we put it all together and put them on the wall. And we were like, wow, this is exemplary, never normal work to see these things now suspended on the wall in this like surreal, flat, white space. And they're so like gentle. You know, it was a cool moment. I remember unpacking those and installing them. It was a nice one.
I gotta say, Mark Deneen, this piece is spectacular, but what a lot of you wouldn't know out there is that Mark drove himself all of this work from Colorado to Detroit. If that's not dedication, you know, I don't know. That is amazing to be able to hand deliver and hand install the work. It arrived in fantastic condition.
You know that was my big concern.
Yes, but
it was actually exactly same. It was exactly the same as the sketch. And that was, I think that's incredible.
That's rare. That's rare for artists and designers alike, for sure.
There was a moment in the studio when like, it was sort of maybe like 60 to 70% done. You could tell what it was gonna be. And my wife came down, she's like, well, this is about the greatest compliment I'll ever get from her. She was like, well, you know, it looks like the drawing. I was like, yeah, actually it does. It looks almost exactly like the drawing. But I was just happy to come out. It was a great opportunity. I wish I could have seen people, you know, and actually spent more time with all these great people in Detroit.
So here's Nicholas Tilma's work. Also fantastic, really fun to play with these elements in the space, as you'll see from some of these wider views as well. The conversation of the industrial elements and the lighting elements within this gallery are really speaking to one another in this really fun, playful way. I imagine turning the lights off to the gallery when I leave at night and you know, these guys are doing something wild.
So I can talk about these. Maybe the best context is like how Allison and I started a conversation almost like 3 or 4 years ago, and you saw that piece unfinished. And, you know, so it's maybe a testament to how long it takes some of these ideas to come into fruition. Whereas the mirror, on the other hand, that's on the wall, I pulled off in a month and a half specifically for the show. So the two together was, you know, the lamp is like 4.5 years in the making, just figuring it out and working very slowly and methodically on it. Obviously not every day, because that's ridiculous, but yeah, it was it was a pleasure to have this show as a catalyst to finish these pieces and to, you know, be back in the studio after, you know, building a house the last 3 years. So I guess for those of you that know me, that's where I was hiding the last 3 years, is building a house and not making any work. So it's been nice to have this, this show as a way to get back in the studio and share with the design community.
And it's really nice to see this piece come together after many studio visits over the past years. It couldn't be better. One of the things Aaron didn't mention is that part of the lighting of this piece is really incredibly intelligent in so many different ways of describing that word, but all Wi-Fi based, programmable, and there's just this beautiful dance that happens. Again, something that you can really truly appreciate in person, but there's subtle shifts within each of the bulbs in this piece and the way it reflects on that white and sort of speckled metallic iridescent material are just phenomenal. It feels magical being in front of this work, Aaron.
I also want to add before we pass that gallery, Joe Parr's ceramic pieces.
Yeah.
Thank you for including it in the show. I'm very happy to have my work. I actually started these pieces as a personal project that's been, I started back in January actually. And so when you told me about the brief for the show, I just felt like it was meant to be, because exactly the sort of thinking that I was putting into this work, you just perfectly explained when you were describing the show to me. So it really was kind of a match made. But yes, it was a new process for me. It's been fantastic to work through it. And I'm loving getting my hands working again, you know, through the quarantine. So yeah, I'm very happy to have these new pieces in the show and finally out in the world.
Yeah, they really came out beautifully. They were awesome to unpack, because I think they're probably one of the more product-centric pieces in the entire show. So it was really neat to have that juxtaposition of like a smooth surface piece that was produced next to, you know, on the wall art or like freestanding artwork. So it was really kind of, and the clock as well, you know, so nice to have the product relationship. It's strong.
Yes, I love the oranges that you're able to put in my rectangular purple. Hopefully they get eaten. I don't want them to go unseen.
Yes, Joe, absolutely. I know we had talked about that in some of our conversations about putting, you know, live flowers or floral and fruit and vegetable ingredients here in your installation. And I think it's really important to have that prop, because these are incredibly functional objects. They're meant to be used. And I think those conversations, you know, all of these things, forgive me if that was already mentioned, but these are all based on traditional pipe fittings and the infrastructure for plumbing. So when you fill a carafe with water, it is coming through the shape of this thing that you are then filling and pouring to your guests out of. I think it's such a clever model for this collection of works, and they're all, I can't say this enough, in terms of the difference between seeing it in person and the touch and tactility of it versus online. But when you put these objects in your hands, they're perfect. And I hope that you're pleased with your installation. We wanted to make sure to carve out a space for your works and create that conversation and relationship to the industrial elements that are being used by both Mark and Aaron and Nick within this gallery.
Absolutely. I think you did a beautiful job, and I firmly believe the art is in the functionality in this case. So I hope everyone gets a chance to experience it in person.
Michael, I know this has been long awaited, but here is your installation. Michael took a big gamble with me on our conversation about what these pieces would be, how they could be realized in an installation within our large industrial space. So here goes. Michael, feel free to comment.
You know, I tried to work with what I had lying around from early in the pandemic, so made do.
So you were drinking a lot of Miller Lite and Coors Light?
Yeah, and then the email came through, and I was like, "What? Okay, I could use these. Yeah, this will work."
No, I think texture turned out amazing. Like we've seen samples, but I think seeing the complete piece is different. Yeah, I think these turned out great.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to show. This was an idea I've been kicking around for a little while, so this was a great opportunity to finally realize it, and I appreciate it very much.
And I'm really happy that you were able to work with the neon design. I think that it really, you know, neon is, and light in general is one of the hardest things to convey through digital representation. But it really makes this installation. I think that it feels like this shrine of a space, and makes the end tables really glow, literally.
Yeah, George of Signifier Signs was a great collaborator for this project, so I appreciate his work as well.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out. Thank you for saying that. George Vitas is one of the absolute best neon fabricators here in Detroit, if not well beyond. But we've been very fortunate to work with George for a number of projects since we opened here at Wasserman Projects, and he was able to deliver yet again. So we really appreciate that. Loving being able to support local artists and designers, and seeing how they can collaborate with other designers worldwide. All right, Phoebe, you're up here.
Hi, so this is my first time seeing the installation entry. Yeah, so I'm trained as a furniture maker, and then I went to Cranbrook, and it was my first time in an art school setting. And so I was coming from a place of making things that stood on the floor, and I wanted to go onto the wall and be very relational with the wall. So wrapping around the wall, peeling off the wall, those were ideas that I'm interested in. And that's what these pieces kind of do. They engage the wall and invite you to look at them and look at the wall differently even. And yeah, the bananas, I don't know who added that, but I think they capture the spirit really well, so kudos. That was you, Allison? Nice.
Of course it was Allison. It's a win for Allison.
Well, you know, they're titled Peel, so Phoebe, you set it up. I just knock it down.
Love it.
We have Evie Barrelay here. And if you recall, if you were logged in earlier, these are the pieces that were formerly appeared in his dining room. But creating them in this different space and thinking about mosaics and patternings and the history. It's so much about what design means in the language that we speak and how we interact in our environments. So as a predominantly exhibited fine artist represented by David Klein here in Detroit, Ebby's work was still yet a perfect fit within the idea of Never Normal and the idea of this design-centric exhibition about how we connect to the objects and environments around us. So these pieces were fantastic in terms of creating that language through formal elements of design. And here we have Adrian Wong in the past gallery. We also had Dorota and Steve Coy, who were both featured in the past exhibition, and just really wanted to give those works another light of day and a conversation around them. And sorry for my lag here, Nur, these are your benches, which will come up again in still image in just 1 second here.
This is the biggest piece I ever designed. Traveling so much that pushed me as a designer to do smaller things that I can control. But I realized during the pandemic, when we're stuck with my husband in our apartment, we realized that the surfaces we currently have actually some kind of dissolving. So couch doesn't do the couch work anymore. It's an office, or it's a desk, or it's an eating area. And then this piece has 3 different levels that actually deviate and dissolve to each other. So you can do multiple combinations. You can sit and work on a long table. It's quite fun, and you're allowed to sit on it in the exhibition. So feel free to enjoy it.
And then followed by this is Irina, who has these incredible glass works. And Irina, if you'd like to speak to these pieces as well. I know this is a whole ordeal. This is part of the behind the scenes that you don't always get to hear, but Irina is based in Portland, and has had some of this glasswork fabricated with the same producer that Nur has her work done with in Turkey, in Istanbul. And the shipment came to her home in Beverly Hills, Michigan. FedEx decided that was clearly an error and sent it to Beverly Hills, California. So we were waiting, nail biting, for the
It delayed 10 days. Yeah, it was like express shipment.
Yes, I know it's nerve-wracking, but Irina, please feel free to talk a little bit about your work.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Compared with Nur, I don't speak Turkish, so for me it was even more challenging to produce these prototypes, but my husband is Turkish, so he was helping me communicate with the craftsman. So we spent a lot of nights on WhatsApp trying to send technical drawings and renderings and sketches to the craftsman and choosing on colors and everything. It was a challenging project, but I find a lot of pleasure in designing it, and mostly because it was designed during the isolation time when I was doing everything from home. So working from home, every day at home, I found myself, I tried to surround myself with more colorful objects, and also to try to explore a little bit different my way of working. So working from computer every day, it was a bit challenging and a bit depressing sometimes. So I tried to just work with paperworks and paper cuts and try to decorate my house with, or imagine how I should decorate my house with more colorful objects. So this glasses, actually glassware collection has the same shapes of the paper cuts, which I think you can see in the background. They are like around the walls and everywhere in my house. And it was also challenging that working with the craftsman, I tried to give him the freedom to explore these shapes and to help him feel comfortable when he's working. So I didn't want him to do exactly the shape that I have to do. As normally we do is like we give them technical drawings and we try to get the exact shape. I let him have this freedom of exploring the shapes, and so it was great collaboration, and I'm really happy they finally made it to the exhibition.
I really loved doing this installation. It kept me on my toes, Irina, because I had a completely different vision when we were expecting works sooner and a different quantity of works. But it was so much fun to think about where they come from and the playfulness and the relationship between all of these conversations within the gallery. So we were just on Summer Wheat. This is a painting that we exhibited of hers this past year. She regrettably could not join us this evening on the call because she was installing something like 60-foot tall installation at the Mint Museum at the moment. But the conversation, the formal relationships and the joyfulness in these works, both with Irina and Nur's pieces, especially thinking about the weight and the quality of line, and this celebration I see in all of your works is it just works so well together, and I love seeing all of these pieces in the same gallery at the same time. As we keep pausing because there's so many great stories to tell. Kyle, Joseph, this is such an incredible piece, a pair of pieces. I don't know, I think Kyle did let me know in advance that he had to leave a little early. So I think, Kyle, unless you're here, I will just share a little information about his works here. The green is indescribable. It is exactly as the image that he had shared with me, just very much like Mark Dineen's reference to his drawing in the finished piece. But as an industrial designer, as somebody who's looking at existing and found materials and repurposing them, a lot of these forms come from traditional industrial forms that are used for other purposes. He described to me in our studio visit that the bottom form is used for sifting grain. So a lot of these components were purchased and then reconfigured and welded and created this incredibly new and exciting functional object and a matching pair of a bench and a stool here. I'm glad Simon had a chance to talk about this a little bit, but the idea of this recycled plastic and filling this container, the amount and the massiveness of this industry and how it is so prevalent within our culture is pretty astounding, but he has managed to use that and create something incredibly beautiful. And then I think we are moving next here to Nur's glass pieces. I know she spoke to that in terms of the ceramic production and also the importance of the glass production in Turkey.
We talked about a little bit when we were doing artist meetings with Allison that I've been working with optical illusions for a long time, but now how my work is perceived is a little different. And we were talking about how the celebrations are limited and you cannot really reach the candy in the Christmas candy jar or in our case, 8 candy jar. So it was inspired by that.
Is Junghan still with us?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I didn't know it was my turn. So the piece that I made was it was two set of small objects on the bottom, which kind of looks like a droplet or mochi kind of shape. That was actually inspired by a shape of droplet. After I seeing a work of Jaime Ion in Seoul, I was having at that time I was having a really hard time in my life, and an exhibition actually made me happy, and that made me think of what everyday little objects that I encounter every day can make me actually happy. So droplet is one of those things that I took the inspiration from, and I've always a big fan of fantasy and children's fairy tale, and this cloud kind of looking like a chandelier, and both the droplet looking pieces are they are they don't exist in the real world. I took the inspiration from the fantasy world that gives people hope and good values.
Thanks, Junhan. We have here now, it's a collaborative group, END Studio. I think everybody is still here. Sophian, Lise Deschard, and Kapish. So we have, I would love for the three of you to describe this project because it was so multifaceted. We had a conversation early on and has taken a few different iterations, but END Studio is really looking to communicate and connect with people within their community and created a pop-up repair shop. We shared some of those images in the first half of this call, but there are a number of iterations of things that they had produced as a result of this conceptual and social project.
Hi guys, we're END Studio. I'm Elise, this is Sophie, and that's Kapish. Yeah, I think Allison, that's a great intro, right? We were, especially in this context of the curatorial theme, Never Normal, we were really thinking about the world that we live in and the lack of kind of interpersonal connection that we maybe have in this world, and the lack of kind of the art opening in person where we would get to connect with people around these design objects. And so we started to reframe the idea of design as an act of connection. And so we started a pop-up repair shop where we put out flyers, asked people to send us photos of their beloved pieces that had broken or needed repairs. And then they dropped them off and we fixed 7 pieces of furniture for individuals and families throughout the city of Detroit for free as part of this project. And in addition to that kind of narrative of connecting, we also had a narrative of connecting with materials and the way that furniture kind of holds the memories of the people that have owned it. So the 2 pieces that you see in the gallery, this unlearning lamp and then unlearning table, which is located beneath it, are from found furniture pieces. So old bed frames and old school tables and old lampshades that were all reconfigured to bring those materials together and into the gallery and then hopefully into someone's life afterwards.
I think what I really just enjoyed about this process were the iterations and the back and forth between the materials in hand and the conversations in play. So imagining ideas of what could be, then responding to the material and newer conversations and allowing the ideas to massage themselves through into their final form, I think was really exciting and unfamiliar and a little scary too. So I'm really happy with where we got.
It's really a learning experience and trusting the process.
For sure. And your friends.
Yeah, I think something that wasn't that was a big part of the project was the pop-up repair shop. And that could only be communicated through, images in the show because everything went back to their owners. But it was such an interesting experience of learning the histories of these pieces of furniture. I mean, we are object designers and
architects.
Yeah, and
knowing that there are histories behind these objects, and just because something is old and dinged up doesn't, it still holds those histories. And for example, we fixed up this chess table that had been in this family for 4 generations, of a family that loves to play chess, and it had been water damaged because it was sitting in their basement, and all it needed was a couple pieces of veneer replaced, which is what we did. And thinking about that as design and about how design is a way of connecting people, I think that is the real crux of the project, I think. So really I'm proud of that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that with all of us worldwide, we had some moments where we were at home longer than we normally would be. And I think our relationship to our domestic landscape and the importance of these objects, not just in terms of how they function, but what they mean to us are quite important. So I thought this was a really wonderful initiative to engage communities and how people relate to the things that they live with.
Thank you.
Hayden, we have some wonderful grouping of ceramic pieces here, and Hayden, you and I had talked quite a bit early on about this installation, and I think it turned out better than I could have possibly imagined. The relationship between these forms, the way that they interconnect with one another. I mean, coming off of the ND Studios project, this is happening in a very different way, more formally than conceptually, but this overlapping relationship between these objects, same as when I was talking about the center galleries, how these pieces might come to life when I turn the lights off at the end of the night. They're such a wonderful family.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a lot of progression throughout all of our conversations, but ultimately arriving at this like collection of pieces that stems from a kind of drumbeat of thought that I have of kind of the like relentless monotony of loss and how loss can take up space and what it means to kind of live with that loss and the elongation of time in that monotony, which I think was kind of my entry point for the brief with Never Normal.
Great. Thanks, Hayden.
Mm-hmm.
Our tongue today, we have Evan and Ayako here with us. We saw these drawings for this piece in the beginning of the slideshow as well.
Yeah, thank you. It was interesting to pull the show together during this time, and so our project called Ghost Garden was specifically made for this exhibition, which is responding a little bit more to the design brief, which is responding to what's going on in the world right now. So one thing that we were one of the only things that we were kind of happy to seeing during this time of crisis was the fact that nature was coming back. And so if humans quiet down a little bit, nature will always come back. And Ayako, feel free to jump in anytime, but
yeah, I am jumping in. Yeah, we started actually this shelf project before COVID-19 started. And then so I am very happy to show this piece for the right exhibition with you guys. Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, I mean, this is a collaboration between Ayako and I, so it was a truly a work of both of ours in that it really took two of us physically in the space to make this stuff. And so it's responding a little bit more intuitively to the design brief in terms of what we were feeling at that time, and also I think is reiterated in the metaphor of Detroit and what's happened in Detroit in terms of the loss and decay that happens, and then nature kind of coming back to that. So it's nothing new to us in Detroit, kind of what's been happening, but to see it around the world, like nature kind of returning back to these urban environments as soon as people don't have the chance to advance so quickly. It was kind of reassuring for us to see. And so kind of building off that and just responding to a feeling in the moment. So yeah, this is our response to that. So thank you, Allison, for all the hard work and being included in the show.
Thank you for being in it. And it's beautiful. It's so elegant in the space. I think we have a detail here of John Bianchi's work. John and I have known each other for some time. So I just wanted to make a note here of John Bianchi's work, and it segues so nicely into the next gallery. It was just such a perfect conversation in this exhibition. I'm going to move forward here. Sunny, who had to leave us, who's based in Korea, this conversation of light, of skin and reflection coming into these folds is a relationship that I thought was just too good to pass up in this exhibition. So I'm not sure how clear this comes across in video, but I know the organizational team, and especially Sophie and Aaron and Evan and Nur, who installed this piece initially for the photo shoot, know how delicate the surface is. But this is essentially a plastic or an acrylic based sheathing material that is very skin-like, but the way that it reflects and projects the light that's emitting from behind it through the various folds, and very meticulous organization of this installation, which I have to commend Sunny. I know she had to go to work as it's in the middle of the day for her now. That choreographing this and being able to have the trust in our team to be able to install this work from her while she's across the ocean was really heartwarming. We were able to troubleshoot quite a few issues through shipping and logistics. And I couldn't be happier with how this installation turned out. But again, that conversation and being able to adapt this architecture of our space was really wonderful. And I encourage you to see it in person. All right, so that is the full exhibition. That took a little longer than we had anticipated, but there was just so much to talk about. I hope that everyone enjoyed it. I'm going to pass this over to Sarah Sternberg on our team, who created this space, Wasserman Works. These are all pieces by Never Normal designers, all of which are available online, as well as to view in person. So we encourage you to take a look. Please feel free to ask me, Julia, Sarah, any questions that you may have. You can contact us by phone, email, or by chat. We'll stick on a little longer. If anyone has any questions, again, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for coming, for celebrating the incredibly hard work and incredible work of all of these artists and designers.